Hi, my name's Derek. Looking at the racial identity development theory, I grew up in the conformity state. My first experience understanding my racial identity was when I was 18, and my friends outside of school started talking to me in Spanish. I told them I didn't speak Spanish, and their response was, "How can you be Hispanic and not know how to speak Spanish?" From then on, they only spoke to me in Spanish until I started learning. My friends then explained how Hispanics were treated different in society. That was when I realized I grew up in a sheltered bubble. My first experience with racism was when I met with my college counselor. I told him I wanted to be a pediatrician, and he literally laughed in my face and told me I should go with something easier. I was so discouraged from that interaction that I stopped focusing and participating in college, and I finally stepped away. At the time, I thought this guy was just a jerk, but I've come to realize that was my first experience with institutional racism. The counselor, who was part of the education system, tore me down to think I was less than and did not have what it takes to become a pediatrician. Using Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, I was in identity versus confusion. The event threw me into confusion because I had always been good at school. I didn't return to school until my mid 20s, but I had a different plan in place because by the time I went back, I felt I was too old to start my pediatrician journey. When I returned, I was more defensive with the school system and was constantly arguing with administration and even a few of the professors. Even entering the master's program, there were some hiccups at the beginning and I went into attack mode. I've gotten better, but I stay guarded to not allow another person to put me down like that counselor initially did. According to an article, United Way of National Capital Area, they have solutions to racial inequality in education, quoting, "Racial inequality in education is a systemic issue, but it is not insurmountable. Addressing these educational disparities requires a commitment to change at every level, from classrooms to legislatures. While no single solution will bring about equity in education overnight, a combination of targeted interventions, policy reforms, and community engagement can create a more equitable system for all students." Um, After my incident with the counselor and leaving education, I worked as a TA to special TA and then teaching later. I was in the education system for about 17 years, and I always kept in mind how I was made felt in that experience. Uh, so I always made sure I spoke and treated my students fairly and with the intention of never putting them down and making sure they felt heard and were able to reach their goals, whatever they were. I would always work with them to ensure that the feeling I had with that counselor, they did not feel. Thinking back and at that interaction with the counselor, uh, I would have handled it differently, thanked him for his time, and and sought a different counselor, somebody that was willing to work with my goals of being a pediatrician. Um, it's definitely different now as an adult, where I've put extra effort to ensure nobody puts me down um, through my educational journey. Um, I do plan to still work at a children's hospital, just in a different capacity. Um, Unfortunately, it won't be a pediatrician.